Today we're going to be reading a passage in A Course in Miracles which talks about the little willingness. That's actually the name of this section. It's section 4 in chapter 18. Chapter 18 is called The Passing of the Dream, and this is called the little willingness. The holy instant is the result of your determination to be holy. It is the answer. The desire and the willingness to let it come precede its coming. You prepare your mind for it only to the extent of recognizing that you want it above all else. It is not necessary that you do more. Indeed, it is necessary that you realize that you cannot do more. Do not attempt to give the Holy Spirit what he does not ask, or you will add the ego to him and confuse the two. He asks but little. It is he who adds the greatness and the might. He joins with you to make the holy instant far greater than you can understand. It is your realization that you need to do so little that enables him to give so much. Trust not your good intentions. They are not enough. But trust implicitly your willingness, whatever else may enter. Concentrate only on this and be not disturbed that shadows surround it. That is why you came. If you could come without them, you would not need the holy instant. Come to it not in arrogance, assuming that you must achieve the state its coming brings with it. The miracle of the holy instant lies in your willingness to let it be what it is. And in your willingness for this lies also your acceptance of yourself as you were meant to be. Humility will never ask that you remain content with littleness, but it does require that you be not content with less than greatness that comes not of you. Your difficulty with the holy instant arises from your fixed conviction that you are not worthy of it. And what is this but the determination to be as you would make yourself? God did not create his dwelling place unworthy of him. And if you believe he cannot enter where he wills to be, you must be interfering with his will. You do not need the strength of willingness to come from you, but only from his will. The holy instant does not come from your little willingness alone. It is always the result of your small willingness combined with the unlimited power of God's will. You have been wrong in thinking that it is needful to prepare yourself for him. It is impossible to make arrogant preparations for holiness and not believe that it is up to you to establish the conditions for peace. God has established them. They do not wait upon your willingness for what they are. Your willingness is needed only to make it possible to teach you what they are. If you maintain that you are unworthy of learning this, you are interfering with the lesson by believing that you must make the learner different. You do not make the learner, nor can you make him different. Would you first make a miracle yourself and then expect one to be made for you? You merely ask the question. The answer is given. Seek not to answer, but merely to receive the answer as it is given. In preparing for the holy instant, do not attempt to make yourself holy to be ready to receive it. That is but to confuse your role with God's. Atonement cannot come to those who think that they must first atone, but only to those who offer it nothing more than simple willingness to make way for it. Purification is of God alone, and therefore for you. Rather than seek to prepare yourself for him, try to think thus. I who am host to God am worthy of him. He who established his dwelling place in me created it as he would have it be. It is not needful that I make it ready for him, but only that I do not interfere with his plan to restore to me my own awareness of my readiness, which is eternal. I need add nothing to his plan. But to receive it, I must be willing not to substitute my own in place of it. And that is all. Add more, and you will merely take away the little that is asked. Remember, you made guilt, and that your plan for the escape from guilt has been to bring atonement to it and make salvation fearful. And it is only fear that you will add if you prepare yourself for love. The preparation for the holy instant belongs to him who gives it. Release yourself to him whose function is release. Do not assume his function for him. Give him but what he asks, that you may learn how little is your part and how great is his. It is this that makes the holy instant so easy and so natural. You make it difficult because you insist there must be more that you need do. You find it difficult to accept the idea that you need give so little to receive so much. And it is very hard for you to realize it is not personally insulting that your contribution and the Holy Spirit's are so extremely disproportionate. You are still convinced that your understanding is a powerful contribution to the truth and makes it what it is. Yet we have emphasized that you need understand nothing. Salvation is easy just because it asks nothing that you cannot give right now. Forget not that it has been your decision to make everything that is natural and easy for you impossible. If you believe the holy instant is difficult for you, it is because you have become the arbiter of what is possible and remain unwilling to give place to one who knows. The whole belief in orders of difficulty in miracles is centered on this. Everything God wills is not only possible, but has already happened. And that is why the past has gone. It never happened in reality. Only in your mind, which thought it did, is its undoing needful. Okay. This, many course students talk about the little willingness. Obviously, it's a major theme in A Course in Miracles. Jesus talks about the little willingness, and he's mentioned it actually before, and now he's going more into depth into what that means. I think there's maybe a little bit of a play on words here. You actually need great willingness, right? You have to want, he says, you have to want the peace of God above all else. You have to be willing to really listen and not add the ego in to what it is. And that's, and so it's kind of a great willingness actually, but it's little in the sense, that you don't add anything. All you need to do is be open to it and receive what is already given. Right? The whole point of A Course in Miracles, the atonement principle, is the separation or separation from God never happened. Right? God is and has always been. Right? God is everywhere and nowhere, and so are we. We are one with that reality. That is our true nature. We have made ourselves unnatural by following the ego. All we need to do, Jesus is saying, is just be willing to receive the answer. And in being ready to receive, be ready to recognize that everything you thought was wrong. Right? Here's a couple things here. Trust not your good intentions, they are not enough, but trust implicitly your willingness, whatever else may enter. Right? Good intentions are of the ego. The ego sees spirituality as another thing to achieve, right? It's something to add to its own glory. Like, I am spiritual, I am great, I am whatever, and that is just more separation, right? It's just using spirituality. It's spiritual materialism. It's the same thing in a different form. And Jesus keeps reminding us that you actually don't need to do anything except be open, be ready, be willing, right? Because the truth already is. It's just removing the interference, removing everything that's in the way, or being willing for that to be removed for you, because it is very simple, and it's not really our job to do it. It's only our job just to be open. Jesus says here, you do not have to. In the Gospels we have the idea of prepare the way, prepare you the way for the Lord. And Jesus is hearkening back to that here and saying, no, you don't even need to prepare. There's nothing to prepare, really. It's just, let's just read that little section where he says that. You have been wrong in thinking that it is needful to prepare yourself for him. It is impossible to make arrogant preparations for holiness and not believe that it is up to you to establish the conditions for peace. Again, this is the authority, the problem of authority, which is the ego wants to be the authority. The ego wants to set the conditions. The ego wants to arrogate itself to a position of this is how it must be, right? And the reality is that the ego does not really even does not want the answer, right? So you may think that you want the answer when you're aligned with the ego, but you really don't. You're not seeking it. You're seeking confusion. Remember that principle that Jesus mentioned earlier, which is the ego is seek but do not find, right? The ego might fool you into thinking that it's seeking for love, but it's not really seeking love. It's seeking more separation, more of a descent into hell. You merely ask the question. You merely have the willingness. The answer is already given. The answer is given. Seek not to answer, but merely to receive the answer as it is given. Don't try to come up with what it is. The truth, as Jesus says elsewhere, the truth will dawn upon you in its own good time. When you've met the conditions, which really is that willingness. You've met the conditions, but you've done certain inner work to remove the interference. But it's not really you that's doing it. It's not the ego that's doing it. It is, happening through that inner light, which Jesus is calling the Holy Spirit, your higher self. You could call it your inner guru. You could call it anything you want, really. Jesus says Holy Spirit. And we can also think of Christ or Jesus, because Jesus tells us that Jesus is one with the Holy Spirit. So Jesus became one with the Holy Spirit. We also can become one with the Holy Spirit just as he did. And it starts with that little willingness. There's that great quote, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. There's also the idea of baby steps. There's also, my teacher used to say, come one step towards me and I will come 1,000 steps towards you. Maybe that gets closest to the idea here of the little willingness, which is if you just take that step toward God and you do it with a true and sincere, let's not use the word intention, but you have that desire, and that really is above all your greatest desire, maybe your only desire, is to know the truth, to know what you really are. That will come. It will come, and Jesus says elsewhere, it's a term for what it is grace. The grace will come. There's really nothing you can do in terms of egoic preparations or trying to orchestrate things in a certain way. It's just to have that little willingness, just to say, all right, I am open. I'm listening. I'm going to stay in that space of non-judgmental witnessing as best I can. And by staying in that space of non-judgmental witnessing, it will come. You can't beat down the doors of heaven, in other words. Knocking on the door might be enough. I don't know if that's even a correct thing to say. But Jesus said that in the Gospels, knock and the door will be opened, right? Didn't say beat on the door. But there is a sense here in which you could say there is no door, right? The door has never, there's never been anything really in the way except our own belief that there is. That's the only thing in the way, is that we have accepted orders of difficulty. Jesus talks about it here. We have accepted orders of difficulty. So we think that it's very, very difficult to find God. We think it's very, very difficult to do what this course is saying. And the reality is actually very, very simple. Maybe not easy because of our egoic conditioning that we have accepted, that we have put above that little willingness. So now all we need to do is shift our priorities and have that little willingness above all. And then everything else will take care of itself, and we just need to be patient with the process. And it could happen like that, That's, again, it's the orders of difficulty of miracles, and thinking that it can't happen like that. In the Gospels, it says, with humans, let's just say with humans, with God, everything is possible. With humans, it's otherwise. But with God, everything is possible. And Jesus is, maybe he's echoing that or referring to that here, where he says that everything God wills is not only possible, but has already happened. So it's not even that the impossible needs to be done. It's already happened. There's nothing to do. There's only what to be undone. And I'll leave it at that. And the next section is also another theme that is oftentimes talked about, which is the happy dream. And Jesus has already talked about the happy dream, but now he's gonna go more in depth into that. So we'll see you soon. And thanks so much for listening. Om.